Hi, and welcome to the third edition of my news vlog, which includes a 3 English lesson. If you find the lessons useful, please subscribe to my channel to receive more lessons in the future. There will be 2 per month, every month. Also, later in this vlog, I will be starting a competition to win a free package of lessons with me, so please look out for that later. A change to the format this time. Instead of one big lesson at the end, each news story will be followed by an English lesson. So we have story, lesson, story, lesson, story, lesson. First story this week is about a big clash between Turkey and the Netherlands. It was a very public clash between the leaders, and you can see the 2 leaders taking part in this argument in this picture below. On the top, Erdogan of Turkey, and on the bottom, Rutte of the Netherlands, which we also call Holland. What was this argument about? Well, Mr. Erdogan is currently engaged in what most people in the West see as a power grab. He has called a referendum that will take place in April to determine whether or not he should be given more powers. He asked his officials to campaign on his behalf with the Turkish diaspora, in this case, those living in Holland. Because the European Union has grave reservations about what Erdogan is trying to do in Turkey, the Dutch leader, Mark Rutte, refused permission for campaign rallies to take place. This caused a furious reaction from Erdogan, who called the Netherlands a Nazi country. As the war of words grew, he even referred to an incident in Bosnia in which Dutch peacekeepers stood by as Bosnian Muslims were killed by Bosnian Serbs. What is my opinion about this? I think the row suited both leaders. Erdogan likes to be thought of as a victim of aggression from others. And he probably thought that this big public argument would make more people vote for him in the referendum. Rutte was under pressure from the anti-Muslim politician Geert Wilders, and the Dutch general election at the time was only a few days away. So Rutte was able to grandstand as being a strong man against Muslims. And the move worked. Rutte won the Dutch election. So, as I mentioned earlier, I'm offering a free package of live lessons with me, which would be done over Skype. The package would be of 3 lessons of 30 minutes each, which would be delivered over Skype. What you need to do to enter is to send me an email to this email address here, englishwithandrew@virginmedia.com, and to tell me what you do and don't like about this vlog. I will pick a winner in 2 weeks' time at random, which means I will select it without opening my eyes, like this, at random, pointing on the screen. And I would let you know if you have won by email. And then, between us, we would arrange suitable times to have the lessons, which would be completely free, so without charge. So, it's time for the first lesson as part of this vlog. Remember, if you want to receive more lessons like this one, please subscribe to the vlog. We're going to start this week with a very public clash between the leaders of Turkey and the Netherlands. This word clash means a strong argument between 2 people, organizations, or countries. We also use this word as a noun to describe important sports matches. For example, Barcelona versus Real Madrid. Second point of the lesson. This sentence here. Well, Mr. Erdogan is currently engaged in what most people in the West see as a power grab. To be engaged in means to be involved in or to take part in something, to be doing something. A power grab, it's a noun, it's an attempt to gain or win more power than someone currently has. Third point, he has called a referendum that will take place in April to determine whether or not he should be given more powers. A referendum is a public vote to decide what decision should be taken. To determine is a verb which, in this context, means the same thing as to decide. Whether or not. In English, when we are talking about whether or not things might happen, we can often use either the word if or the word whether. But this is not always true. Importantly, if, as in this case, you want to use the words or not, you must use whether, not if. There are other important differences between whether and if that we can talk about in future lessons. Fourth, he asked his officials to campaign on his behalf with the Turkish diaspora. To campaign means to try to convince people of something, in this case, to vote for him. A diaspora are people that were born in one country, but that have gone to live abroad. Fifth point, because the European Union has grave reservations. Grave means serious, and reservations mean doubts about whether or not something is a good idea. This is an example of something called a collocation in English. This collocation involves putting an adjective and a noun together. The adjective is grave and the noun is reservation. Collocations are combinations of words like adjectives and nouns that commonly go together in English. If you are going to do a test, such as the IELTS test, you will score extra points in your test if you use collocations, so these are something that you should be trying to learn. 6. As the war of words grew, he even referred to an incident in Bosnia in which Dutch peacekeepers stood by as Bosnian Muslims were killed by Bosnian Serbs. To stand by. This is a common English phrasal verb, which, in this case, it means to do nothing to prevent something bad from happening. This phrasal verb also has a very different meaning. It can also mean to be really loyal to somebody. So, he stood by me in difficult times would mean that he was loyal to me in difficult times. What is my opinion about this? I think the row suited both leaders. This is the 7th point of the lesson. Row is both a verb and a noun. As a verb, it means to argue. As a noun, it means an argument. Final point of this lesson. So Rutte was able to grandstand as being a strong man against Muslims. To grandstand is a verb meaning to behave in a way that would get lots of attention. So, on to our second story. This time, another major spat. Malaysia versus North Korea. In my most recent vlog, we talked about this guy, Kim Jong-nam, who you can see here. As you will remember, he was the brother of the leader of North Korea. He was assassinated at Kuala Lumpur Airport in Malaysia. This particular row started after Malaysia announced that it wanted to question various North Koreans about the murder. These North Koreans sought refuge inside their embassy, where they were protected by diplomatic immunity. The way diplomatic immunity works is that it only applies inside an embassy. If any of the North Koreans were to set foot on the pavement outside the embassy, they would be arrested. In addition to allowing murder suspects to hide in its embassy, North Korea also announced that it would prevent all Malaysians in North Korea from leaving the country. Malaysia responded with a tit-for-tat move. North Korea can ill afford this kind of row, given that Malaysia is one of the few countries in the world that allows North Koreans to enter and work in Malaysia without a visa, which in turn provides some much needed money for North Korean family members living back in North Korea. So, the second lesson. Another major spat. This word spat is just another word that means the same thing as a row or argument. These North Koreans sought refuge inside their embassy, where they were protected by diplomatic immunity. To seek refuge means to seek a safe place to hide. Diplomatic immunity is a special protection that means somebody cannot be arrested or prosecuted for a crime when they are in a foreign embassy. Third point. If any of the North Koreans were to set foot on the pavement outside the embassy, they would be arrested. This sentence is an example of how to form a conditional sentence in English. This is an example of using what we call the second conditional to talk about something in the future which is unlikely to happen. To use the second conditional, we use the form if plus past simple, and then would plus the infinitive. In this sentence, were in the past simple is the past simple of the verb to be. We usually use the word will with the future tense in English, but in a conditional sentence we use would instead of will, as would is the conditional form of will. Malaysia responded with a tit-for-tat move. A tit-for-tat move is when one side in an argument or dispute responds to the actions of the other side by doing exactly the same thing itself. 5. North Korea can ill afford this kind of row. When somebody can ill afford something, it means that they cannot or should not allow something to happen because it will have a bad result or outcome for them. Final story this week. Another clash. A memorable one, this time less serious, one on the football pitch. This was between Barcelona and Paris Saint-Germain, the French team. Barcelona, the all-conquering Spanish team that has won multiple Champions League tournaments, had been badly beaten 4-0 in the first leg of a two-legged tie in Paris, before producing a colossal turnaround in the second leg. Barcelona scored an incredible 3 times in the final 7 minutes of the match and totaled 6 goals in all, winning the second leg 6-1 to win the tie by an overall margin of 6-5. It was the biggest comeback in the history of the competition. So, third and final lesson. All-conquering means a team or person that regularly beats all of their opponents. To conquer literally means to take control of a place by force. Colossal means very big, very big. A turnaround is a dramatic change in the course of events. The final lesson from this sports story is on the use of the past perfect tense in English. Barcelona had been badly beaten before producing a colossal turnaround in the second leg. We use this tense in English to talk about 2 events, both of which happened in the past, but where one of the 2 events happened before the other one. Okay, so that's the end of this third vlog. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe. And remember, send me an email to this address on the screen if you want to win a free package of lessons with me. That's all from me for today. Thank you.